Because there's a few people still got their mics on. That's, okay, there we go. Well, Rebecca, you're having a party. There's three of you there. Right. So, what would you like to talk about? Sure, you've been thinking long and hard for 2 weeks about what we could talk about this evening. You'd like to start? You can use the react button. You've got a, what do we normally use?
If you can hear me,
Yeah, we normally, what we do is there's usually a raise hand icon at the bottom with react. Then I know who it is. I can invite you to say something.
I just wonder whether Hilda could turn my video on, because
Yeah, one sec.
if you can hear me.
All right, Stephen, thank you. Could we start the evening, please? Has somebody got a question?
Ah,
Thank you, Stephen. What would you like to talk about?
um, a very common thing. It's about both in meditation and in life, but mostly in the meditation. Of it starts with sort of flurry and worry, and trying to control things and letting them go. And I'm finding that's being mirrored in life. That I'm constantly trying to control things. So it's something I'm learning in the meditation that is helpful in life. And I guess it's what you would call flurry and worry.
Yeah. So yes, and you quite rightly identify that it is the attempt to control outcomes, isn't it?
Yes.
So we think that by controlling outcomes, we won't suffer. And I have a certainty about life. And if I have a certainty about life, then I can relax. And of course, the effect is, I mean, to a certain extent, planning to offset a future predicament. You know, it could work, I guess. But life is fundamentally uncertain. And as I like to say, it's like, whilst most of the world is engaged in trying to obtain certainty, the wise are learning to be comfortable with uncertainty, because uncertainty is the true nature of reality. And so it can appear as though we're securing ourselves, but actually what we're doing is reinforcing the sense of life's inherent uncertainty as being something bad, and we're reinforcing the tendency towards worry. Does that pan out in your experience, Stephen?
Absolutely. And someone who has a history of anxiety, which would feed into that. As I say, the meditation is becoming really helpful in everyday life, because if I let go and be mindful and be at one with whatever task it is, or if someone's talking to me or whatever, and not trying to control the things, because that's just about my rubbish. Um, it's uh, it's much more enjoyable, but also that is what's really going on, rather than my stuff, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's a rejection of reality.
Yes.
It's not surprising. You know, we come into this world, we're not really given a proper manual of how it works. We have to discover that. And so we, even from an early age, and even perhaps it's genetic, it can be part of our genetic inheritance, or even our karmic inheritance from past lives. that from a very young age, we start producing these control mechanisms to try to cope with what, after all, is this very strange thing we find ourselves living in, the human realm. And it can be extraordinarily tough. As I was saying before the meditation, it can be treacherous. It's not surprising that we employ control mechanisms to try to, to keep ourselves safe and what have you. It's just that we've reached an age, a maturity now, and we're beginning to question those habitual tendencies and whether they're really in our best interest. And so yes. So what we do in meditation, what we see in meditation, is simply a window into what we've been doing the rest of the time anyway. And it's not different in that respect. And so the more we practice in meditation, allowing states such as anxiety to be. So when we say letting go, what do we mean? We let go of the attempt to make things different, which means resting with the uncertainty, with whatever weird feelings come with the anxiety, whatever thoughts arise conditioned by the anxiety. We allow that whole process in the safety of a meditative space. We allow that whole cycle, that wave of anxiety to run, but we're watching it, we're mindful of it, we've labeled it, and we're clearly comprehending of it. So we're not just lost in anxiety, we know what's unfolding, and we allow it to run its course, and we gain experiential understanding that it is a wave, it reaches a peak, and then it will fall away if we don't interfere, if we let be. And the more evidence we get of that in meditation, formal seated meditation, the more comfortable and at home we are with this process of, in this instance, anxiety arising in our relationships, in dealing, interfacing with the outside world. We're able to process that more easily in situation, which means that gradually over time, the anxiety doesn't obsess us, it doesn't overwhelm us, because it's the resistance that comes with it, the resistance to the anxiety itself and the painfulness of it and the discomfort of it, that perpetuates it. So the more mindful we are, both in seated meditation and outside, the more clearly comprehending we are of it, the more from experience we know that it's like a cresting wave, and its destiny, its fate is to just pass away again, to dissolve. That's the way. I mean, you have to be brave, but that is the way to truly overcome states like anxiety. You become the master of it rather than its slave. Does that help, Steve?
Oh, greatly so. And I just feel so thankful for the Buddha's teaching and the teaching in general and your wise words, whatever, because it's really helping me. I sometimes laugh at anxiety now because it's not doing what it used to do.
Yeah.
Because it will just fade away.
Yes, and the habit is the habit, and at the moment it's still rooted, but it comes a point when you follow this training where anxiety is rootless. It's like the mere shadow of it, that it's just like it's almost like just like the memory of it. It's so it becomes so ephemeral, and of course it's so much easier to put down again, not to get caught up with it. And it's wisdom, Steve. That's what the Buddha's teaching is. It's a wisdom teaching. We become wise, and we become wise through the willingness, the courage to be with those things that previously we found unbearable.
So true.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. So glad that the Buddha's teaching is helping. I mean, we have to apply it, of course, and that's the more challenging aspect. If it's just an intellectual exercise, it doesn't change us, but it's the actual practice of mindful noting that does the work. Good. So pleased for you.
Thank you.
else like to have a chat? Jason, hello.
Hi, Paul. How
Hi.
are you?
Really good.
No, on what you were saying, and sort of starting to see suffering as actually something that has kind of got a gift in it when it arises, because it's actually showing you stuff, and we tend to think of it as, oh, I don't want it to come up, I don't want it to be there, but you can sort of change your attitude towards it, and I find more when it comes up, I'm thinking, oh, there's going to be something I've not noticed before in here, and I'll may go into some suffering. It might be quite intense for a bit, but it seems to I come out the other side, and I've learned something I just didn't know before. I've seen a new aspect of it. So then you think, is it so bad? Actually, it's teaching me.
Tis sorrow is our guru.
Mm. Which
Uh,
sort of, yeah, it changes the whole sort of,
oh,
approach. Yeah,
it's a what they call it, a game changer.
yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, a game change. Yeah,
It is absolutely a game changer
yeah,
because everything that we had assumed has now been turned on its head.
yeah. And
This,
it's
yeah.
like a place like this is sort of the only place where you're going to get people suggesting, no, suffering's good. Look at it. It's because everywhere else you're trying to get rid of it.
Yes,
You know.
it's in the world. The idea that you are anxious is treated as a problem that has to be solved, and that it is assumed that because there is anxiety running, you are anxious, which means there is the presumption of identity in the anxiety. That identity reflects who I am. So it becomes a question of my identity. And we know that in recent times, people have begun to treat an issue like anxiety as their personality. That
Yeah.
it becomes so embedded that this is who I am, and
Mm,
you have to, I want who I am reflected in your eyes. You have to reinforce that for me.
mm. And I have a friend. I have a friend, a young chap who is it's exactly that. And if you sort of try and talk about, different ways of looking at it, he'll just sort of say, no, no, I've got this, whatever it is, thing. I can't see it that way. It's impossible because I've got this thing.
Yes, so it's a permanent,
Yeah.
because it's a permanent trait of my permanent
Mm.
character.
And I can't do anything about it. I'm stuck with that.
Well, this is another aspect of it, which is very interesting. I can't do anything about it. You've got to do something about it. Society has to do something about it.
Yeah,
Medical
yeah.
profession have to do something about it. You know, and okay, that's the way the world is, and that is your friend's prerogative. And all any of us can do is deal with what's going on within us, and how other people choose to see life and interact with life is their own business. So we always have to recognize that ultimately we can only really change ourselves. But this is why the Buddha's teaching goes against the stream. You know, it
Mm, mm,
it's turning those assumptions on their heads,
mm.
on its head. I wouldn't want anyone to have taken my suffering away from me.
Mm.
I did try that extensively, but it never worked. And
Mm.
eventually, a little bit of wise reflection finally popped up to say, Paul, maybe this is something you're doing to yourself. And that opened doors then, because, well, if I'm doing it to myself with a little bit of guidance, with a little bit of help, then maybe I can see what it is that I'm doing and stop.
Mm.
So it's the absolute opposite. It's taking responsibility. So you're no longer hoping. There is something real, pragmatic, practical you can do. And it transpired for me, and following this way, that taking responsibility was about being honest about what was really going on through the development of mindfulness, and then letting be that, so that I could see it, and I could see it really, really clearly. Mm-hmm. So yes, so suffering is the first noble truth. Life is suffering, but it is a gift, as you quite rightly said. It is because it is through understanding suffering that we see the causes of suffering. This is wisdom. And you cannot get that wisdom unless you're willing to accept the first noble truth that there is suffering. Yeah. Once you do, life turns on its head, and suddenly you're looking at life very, very differently. Good. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Annie, nice to see you.
Hello, Paul.
Hi.
Right. So my default, for as long as I can remember, has been I could cope if I had an escape route. So I'm talking right back to I was a teenager, and it's still the same. So I've been enjoying rather a nice period. It's very high. I've been very high, but at least I have been enjoying that, and things are. I felt I've turned a bit of a corner. However, I know very well that once that switch goes, which means I'm back into the depressive state, I always want to build up my arsenal, and of course it doesn't work that way. So I'm not just reduced again to complete despair. And the other thing is this letting go. I don't really think, you can't will that, can you? You can't will. I don't know how that will ever happen with me, because I don't trust the way this world is. I simply don't. And I know the horror. I don't personally, bit, but my dad had to go through, 6 years on a battleship and this sort of thing. But sorry, I don't want to be depressing to people. It's just that well, it's just that I can't really, you can't change things of your character, is that I know there is horror. And, my dad witnessed sort of thousands of men drowning on that sinking of the Ark. And that is...
Samsara is truly treacherous.
Yeah. So, and so I find myself, I say, yeah, it's lovely now, isn't it? But you still haven't cracked this thing of if and when you get cancer and dementia, or if you have to go into a care home, it's like as if I could possibly do that. And of course I can't. But if I thought, well, like some people, it's okay, I know what I'm going to do. I've got this substance, and I haven't. And also that is not right. I was brought up in a Catholic environment, which obviously suicide is a mortal sin, but there are even now, which I don't follow Catholicism or Christianity, I know that life is precious, and that isn't an okay thing to do. I've changed my stance on that, really. But anyway, the problem is of letting go, really, Paul. The impossibility.
What do we mean by letting go?
Well, don't see
what are we letting go of?
Well, what would it be? You've got to be able to withstand. You've got to be brave, haven't you? And being brave is surely a voluntary thing.
But you haven't answered the question. Sorry. What do we mean by letting go?
Answer it.
What are we letting go of?
I can't answer it. That's the problem. I just know that it's...
you see. So how do we know that letting go would be extraordinarily difficult?
I haven't managed it so far, Well, I have very rarely.
I think letting go is probably not quite the right wording. What about letting be?
Well, letting be, yeah. How can you let be horrible?
Well, if it's because to resist something, it already has to be there. So letting be means we're going to let it be there rather than resist it.
So picture this: I'm in the care home, and there's a blaring television going on, and people, and the stench of urine and that sort of thing. I know this might sound amusing, but how does one deal with that? I know. Well,
what we do, Annie, with the greatest respect, what we do is we deal with what is present right now. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about our actual experience, not a kind of hyper reality that we create about what circumstances might be, but we work with, when we meditate, we work with what is unfolding in our experience now.
No,
it's whether we are able. It's not a question of whether we are able to withstand things, because that implies resistance. It is learning to let be, letting the discomfort be, letting the previously unwanted thoughts to be, in order to see them and understand and experientially understand that they're like cresting waves that come up, reach their peak and die down again.
Yeah,
and it's through that process of mindfulness that we're, as we were saying before, as talking to Steve about, we gradually see in other areas of our life what we're learning in meditation is applicable and naturally starts to happen in other situations. So if we are concerned about the future in whatever way, if we practice now and we develop the wisdom now by looking at stuff that's happening now, we will be in a far better place to be able to deal with what life brings moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I just have, it's about trust, isn't it? It's about trust. That's that thing which I find very difficult. But thank you. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your contribution. Appreciate it. Yeah, you have to have faith. We have to have faith. But we have to have faith to do so many things. It's actually a natural part of our, it's a part of our natural spontaneous being is that we're faithful. The distrust and the resistance is stuff that is put on top, and often underneath the rubble of resistance and distrust, we actually find that there is this infinite reservoir of faith available to us. So I think for all of us, we're all in the same boat. It's learning through experience, sitting down for half an hour a day minimum, and going, all right, for this half an hour, I will let be. I will. So the meditation instruction is to rest in the moment, content to allow whatever wants to arise, so that I can mindfully note it. And if we do that, then we're gaining the experiential understanding that it's okay to let these things be. And like I say, that begins to then percolate out, move out into the rest of our lives as well. And we find that the wisdom that we gain in meditation is applicable in all these other life situations. So for all of us, it's the same. What else have you got for me? Anna, hello. You'll need to unmute. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
There we go.
Just saying, a complete beginner. Anyway, I'm here. And so I, having done like 10 minutes mindfulness on some app, was talking about, they were talking about following the breath. But you're talking about some practice of resting in the letting be.
Yeah.
So as a beginner, is there a difference between those two things? How do you think I might start?
Well, it's often taught that, for some reason, I'm not quite sure it's necessary, but what people often teach is that before you can practice mindfulness, you have to develop a certain amount of concentration. And so the idea is that you develop mindfulness and concentration on one object. And so typically it might be the sensation of the breath as it occurs at the abdomen. And people are invited to just place their attention around that area and watch the breath in order to become more steady and focused in the moment. What often happens, though, is that people are told that when any distraction arises, that they're to ignore it and come back straight back to the breath. But what we're interested in is a deep exploration of the true nature of conscious experience. So there are no distractions. Literally, everything that arises, whether it's the sounds of church bells, which is going on here at the moment, or there was a cat meowing while I was meditating before, all of those are part of the meditation. If there are aches and pains in the body, that's part of the meditation. If the mind goes off into daydream or into planning or wherever it might get up to, we allow for that. We allow for the mind becoming interested in whatever it wants to become interested in. And then we do this thing called mindful noting. We mindfully note where the mind goes and what it gets interested in. And the reason that we're doing that is that we want to explore the true nature of conscious experience in order to gain wisdom, the wisdom that understands that all things are transient and are therefore grasping after them and identifying with them and so forth is actually counterproductive and causes us distress. And so the more people let go, let be, the more they see that things are transient, and they develop this wisdom that through non-attachment, they are happy. They find happiness, deep, abiding happiness. So focusing on the breath, if somebody does that successfully, they have a temporary cessation of suffering because there are no distractions, nothing's going on at all other than that. And they experience a period of calm, which is non-suffering. But the moment they resume life, all these impingements start happening again, and there's the experience of all the ups and downs of life. And there's still resistance. And because there's still resistance, people carry on suffering. So we want to get through the resistance by developing wisdom. And so the way I personally teach is the way that I followed, which was that it was unnecessary to focus exclusively on the breath, because it was about gaining the wisdom of the transient nature of everything that arises. So it is a deep and full exploration of conscious experience.
But say you notice that your thoughts are, carrying on answering one's emails. So you've lost the breath, just the main thing anyway. And there you are answering your emails.
Yes.
Okay, so you notice that.
Yes.
But you just if I let myself go into that, then I'll just be answering my emails for the whole full 30 minutes. I mean,
But will you? See, the difference is that you're aware that that's what is unfolding. So when we mindfully note, that creates what we call clear comprehension. So let's say we label it as planning. Okay. Yeah. So it's answering an email, planning. So we mindfully label it planning. We don't rush back to the breath. What happens if we've got mindfulness and clear comprehension of planning? What happens to that thought process now that we're clearly comprehending and looking at it?
I don't know what does happen.
Oh, that's why we meditate to find out. What people tend to find is that because there's not the ignoring of it, we're not indulging the planning, because indulging the planning, just being in that thought form and just playing out that scenario in our heads requires us to actually ignore what's going on. We're so deeply, it's like you can't see the wood for the trees. You're just deeply in it. As soon as you have clear comprehension of it, there is the recognition that there is nothing causing it to continue, because now you're looking at it, you've labeled it, and it tends to just drop away.
Back to what? Back to the breath?
Well, no, just that planning, those planning thoughts tend to drop away, right? Our spontaneous nature is that we are in the moment.
And then you come back to the moment. Okay.
So that might very well be like having an anchor like the breath is a really good idea. So the only difference is, instead of going, oh, I need to be on the breath all the time, it's saying, no, this is a deeper, wider exploration of conscious experience. So people are able to be more relaxed. And they allow for the arising of these habitual tendencies like planning, for instance, and they're able to spend more time just looking at the planning, having mindfully noted it, and see its nature is to naturally pass away again. It is the nature of everything that arises to pass away. And so what we find is there's this more natural way of dealing with thought processes in the meditation, which isn't dependent upon trying to keep everything out. So it's more inclusive. You get to see the transient nature of whatever it is that you're looking at. And with the falling away of that, naturally the mind is just present in the moment. And often what will happen is, of course, a few nanoseconds later, we start planning again. But that's, you haven't fallen out of the meditation. You're still in the meditation. The meditation includes things like worry and daydream and planning and sensual thoughts and irritation and frustration and anxiety. We're looking at it all, not just a select little sliver of experience called the breath. We want to explore the whole of conscious experience to develop the wisdom.
Well, that's very interesting. I shall
ponder upon it.
Even attempt a small amount of practicing of that. See what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you ever want to have a chat, personal chat, you're very welcome to get in touch with the centre and arrange that. Very happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, not at all. Nice speaking to you, Anna.
Thank you.
Yes. It is interesting. It's ongoing. There's always this ongoing debate with people around people often teach different things using the same words, and so it isn't necessarily that they mean the same things by the words that they use. So it's really, really good and helpful to clarify exactly what we mean by meditation. Mandy,
Hi, Paul.
how are you?
Yeah. Well, actually, I've been on retreat 2 weeks ago, and after that, I've been visiting a friend in Bradford close by, and I've been visiting London with my partner, and that was quite interesting to notice the difference. Well, not to notice the difference, um, yeah, how then I felt myself became more sensitive to everything. So every time I do a retreat, you notice that a couple of days later, and then it ceases again. But everything is so sharp, so clear. It's quite always interesting process, especially the difference between the retreat and London, which was there's a big change and adaptation required. And I find it quite interesting what you were saying just now about it's not about enduring things, which I relate with the question just by Anna, I think she called. I'm not sure about her name.
Yeah.
Because going back to the breath every time, which I used to do a lot in the meditation, and still sometimes I do it because I like to have to give myself a bit more focus. But anyway, that's a choice. But to go back to the breath I use that also during the day as to go back to the breathing to enjoy things. So in London to enjoy
to
the
get through
noise,
something. Yeah.
get through something,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's really made that really makes a change if you're not enjoying things, but then acceptance, the being there, the let everything happen.
Yeah.
It's such a whiteness, openness. I noticed the difference, but still, it's very tricky to not go back to the breath and enjoy things. Even when I have a fight with my partner, for instance, I find that really tricky.
Well, it's closing down. It's which these are techniques that we've developed over the years because life is suffering and it is difficult, and we have unwanted contacts, they do occur, and so when somebody practices exclusive observation of the breathing process, they are experiencing non-suffering. If they're successful, they experience a period of non-suffering, but you don't learn anything. Yeah, you don't develop any wisdom, not insight wisdom. Whereas when you're developing insight wisdom, you realize that the reason that you felt you had to endure something was because you saw it in an oppositional sense. You saw it as something that was opposing you and something that was getting in your way, stopping you from having an enjoyable time. Whereas when you practice insight meditation, you begin to realize there are no such things. There are just objects arising and passing away. And so the more you just simply allow for, I don't know, the traffic in London or the busyness of London, you just go, all right, well, I just have to surrender to this. This is my reality. If you continue the observation of, the mindful noticing and the observation of what's going on, you realize there is nothing in opposition. So there is nothing to endure. And nothing has the persistence that we assumed it had, that kind of semi-permanent nature that we had. And so you find that you resist less and less and less. So I understand, and I'm not saying that having any focus on the breath is a bad thing. When you're meditating, if you start to get calm, and you will get calm if you're just noting things, because calm is the absence of resistance. So if you're just happily, mindfully noting things, one of the things you will become aware of is the body. And one of the aspects of the body that you'll become aware of is the breathing process. And when we're relaxed in the meditation, we're calm and we're happy, we are lovely and centered. And the breath is just at the abdomen, it's just like at the base of consciousness. It's just sitting there. And so just gently watching the rise and fall of the abdomen is extremely nice, and it will lead to a further concentration of the mind. And then it's just a question of, well, but what's our purpose? Is our purpose just to have a good time in the moment, or is our purpose to develop the wisdom that will permanently set us free from passionately craving for things to be different and suffering? Does that make sense, Mandy?
It does, definitely. But I also wonder now, I am aware that I'm using it still as a beginning of the meditation quite often. So I start off with the breathing and then widen my scope. I don't know why I do that. I think I do that because to get a bit of in concentration in the beginning. What do you think about that?
What about experimenting with, say, sitting down and going, right, I'm just going to let the mind go wherever it wants to go so that I can note it. Yeah. So just experimenting. So I'm not saying yes or no to you. I'm just saying experiment. Experiment with just sitting down or taking yourself out of a formal meditation sitting and just, when the weather warms up, go and sit on a park bench somewhere and just say, right, I'm just going to sit here and with my flask of coffee or whatever, and I'm just going to allow thoughts to go wherever they want to go. And I'm just going to mindfully note where they go. I'm not going to inhibit them. I'm not going to suppress them. I'm not going to indulge them. I'm allowing each set of thoughts just to come up, just so that I can mindfully note them and see what happens.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Encourage everyone to give that a go. And I think what you'll find is you'll probably get concentrated quicker than you would if you just look at the breath.
Okay, I'm going to find out, Paul. Let you know.
Challenge.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I mean, lots of different people teach lots of different meditation techniques. My experience, I go back to what I was saying to Anna, was it before? Yes. My experience was that understanding the teaching, understanding the philosophical framework around what we were doing, I I was trying to keep my attention on the breath. And one day, sitting in the shrine room, I just realized that whilst I was doing that, there were other things going on in my experience which were clearly and obviously transient. Like the birds were singing, and it was obvious that the notes of the birds' song were all entirely transient. The sound of the traffic outside was entirely transient. There were feelings in my body, sensations in my body, which were entirely transient. It was like, why am I preoccupied with the breath? Why? It was just a personal thing. It was just this, why don't I just rest here and just carry on mindfully noting whatever comes up? And that was my big breakthrough. That's why I sit here now in this seat, sort of leading the group, because that realization then led to the unfolding of all these insights. The whole of the Vipassana insight training, all the insights started arising because I was just looking at the right things. It's not so hard. It's just getting over this sort of, I don't know where it comes from, but everyone just believes you just have to be looking at the breath the whole time. I know why.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Not just
for
you,
me.
Matthew. I'm talking to everyone, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, yeah, no, I think for myself, it's also becoming aware of the body, maybe as an entrance kind of thing. Let's be mindful sitting here in my chair, go to the breathing, so make contact with myself, my body, and then start.
Yes, that's the rest in the moment side. Yeah, of the instruction. So the instruction is rest in the moment, content to mindfully note whatever arises. So being in the body, being in the chair, with your eyes closed, the sensation of the body, the various sensations of the body, including the breathing process, that means we're in the moment and we are resting in the moment. So we're not trying to get anywhere. So often what accompanies watching the breathing is ambition. If I watch the breathing, I'll get deeply concentrated. And so it becomes this ambition, which means you're not resting. But if you're just aware of the body, if you're aware of the breathing process, that's being in the moment. And then it's about what your priority is, what your purpose is. And if the purpose is wisdom, then it's from that lovely, settled, resting in the body, in the moment. It's then, okay, let whatever wants to arise, and I'll note it. Yeah? That makes sense? Yes. Okay. I hope this is helping people because for whatever reason, I don't know why, it does seem like this paradigm shift that people have to go through of recognizing this. I went through it, and I'm sure other people have been through it too, where there's this recognition that, oh, hang on, wait, this isn't what's being asked of me. I'm being asked to something different. I was talking to Mark today. Is Mark in there?
Yeah, I'm here for.
Yeah, because we were talking about this afternoon, weren't we?
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything?
Not sure what to add, but
your experience was similar, wasn't it? It was that's an awesome Buddha behind you.
I know, showing off. Yeah, I'm in the red room.
So yeah, it was your experience. It was just realizing that you didn't have to be preoccupied with following the breath.
Well, it was sort of a relief in a way to sort of put the breath down and just look at what was coming up in the moment and noting it, which kind of concentrates one's attention on what, if you're noting accurate and seeing clearly.
Yeah, the accuracy and the clarity will come. I think it is just the willingness.
But also, I was just going to say maybe something else I've noticed on occasion is sometimes it's really easy to just sit there and not note,
Mm-hmm.
like in a sort of dreamy state where you're just literally watching everything arising and ceasing.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't know, I get a sort of mental reminder, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh yeah, note. And
Yeah.
start noting again. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely allowed to learn as we go along. And in all instances, including that instance, you haven't gone wrong. It is impossible to go wrong with mindful noting because we just mindfully note whatever it was. So if it was dreaminess or it was like a sort of like a half sleepy state, but there was no mindful actual noting going on, then that's what you note. And that discovery means that your mindfulness is now, there's greater clarity now. Your mindfulness is back online now. Yeah. So that is a reason for positivity. And so many people will see something like a period of dreaminess and go, oh, I wasn't doing it right. Where they don't see that actually in that moment they had become mindful. So that is an entirely positive thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and seems to, I don't know, somehow sort of get energy going again. So the dreaminess passes. Not that that's the goal. But...
Well, when the mind comes into balance, if there's mindfulness and there's mindful noting, and it's being done without ambition, but just out of curiosity for what's going to come up next, then the next mental factor to arise is pleasurable interest. So the mind is balanced because it's not ambitious, but it is interested, and so fascination and happiness start to emerge. So the whole process then becomes enjoyable, and because it's enjoyable, we're at peace with what's unfolding. Then concentration can arise. The happy mind concentrates easily, the Buddha said.
Maybe I just want to say one more thing that, around things like anxiety and maybe depression or other mind states, that when you're mindfully noting, you're seeing everything is so transient from moment to moment, and that perhaps in times gone by where one might have thought of these things as large, solid, immovable objects, that they're fleeting like everything else, I guess, from moment to moment. Yeah.
Yes, that is the correction of your perceptions. From the misperception of permanence to the correct perception of impermanence. That's exactly what we do it for. Yeah. So when we think it's permanent, when we identify with it as being me or mine, that leads to incredible amounts of resistance because now I'm all wrong. When we see it as a transient phenomenon from experience, then we can allow it to be. We don't identify with it. It is a depressed state. It is not me being depressed. It's just a depressed state, which is a dark cloud passing through the sky of the mind. And there is literally nothing else that need be done because it's cyclical. It's a wave. It will reach its peak and then it will pass. It's the wisdom that sets you free, not control, not force, not suppression. It's wisdom that sets you free. So, Mark, brilliant.
Thanks, Paul. And thanks for the chat today. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Oh, not at all. Good job.
Thank
Sarah.
You. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, just inspired to say or ask a little bit on. It just seems sometimes, as someone who's been trying to meditate, shorter or longer time, but you can build up an idea of a trajectory. Oh, I don't get caught up in the same way that I used to. And you get to know the names of things like the hindrances, and you're able to note more precisely what's coming up in the mind and see how they're not leading to happiness, although sometimes you think they would be. But it can get, maybe you could talk a bit how it goes in kind of cycles where you really think that
And it's just that there's another level of ignoring going on, that you're suddenly like, then if you do keep going with the practice and go and talk to the teacher and relate that, and perhaps have your eyes open momentarily to that, oh, whoops, actually there's probably what might be called suppression going on, another kind of ignoring,
Yeah. So
and you see more in more detail.
if you've decided that you know,
Mhm.
then you become closed off. Because, right, okay, so say you've decided you know all about a particular hindrance. Say somebody decides they've overcome a hindrance, like oh, I understand everything about doubt now. I don't fall into that trap anymore. Right? Then when doubt arises, because it's assumed that I know all about that, it's no longer being looked at. Right? So we've just gone back into ignoring it. So we always have to catch ourselves. It is undoubtedly the case that if you keep on practicing mindful noting, you will be able to release yourself from a hindrance sooner and sooner into the process. You'll recognize it more quickly. You'll see it for what it is. You won't identify with it so strongly, and therefore you can let it be, and it reaches its peak and falls away, right? But if we then create this sort of meta level narrative that say, oh yeah, I know all about that, then we're not open anymore. So we have to, no matter how good at this we think we are, none of us are going to be as good as the Buddha. So we can still come back to the learning mode. We're happiest when we're learning. You know, when we assume that we know, then that leads to closing down, ignoring, and the meditation will become tense and troubled because we're not looking at something that we need to look at. Okay? And so when we go into learner mode, beginner's mind, I know nothing. I'm just going to let whatever wants to unfold. And that means, we might have to go back and relearn stuff about doubt, or relearn stuff about planning or daydream or whatever it might be. That's a good thing. Yeah. Mm. So however we can, it's retaining that beginner's outlook, that beginner's mind that doesn't assume it knows everything about what's going on. It knows nothing. And so it's each time we sit down to meditate, it's as though we've never meditated before. Yeah. Does that cover it, Sarah?
Yes, thank you. I'm thinking also of the attachment to the idea of me as a good meditator, or, as this, particular, I'm on this level now,
Right.
I'm getting a badge. I'm getting a badge now. Like somebody said to me the other day, I'm not a stream winner or anything. And it was like, I'm not asking for any kind of qualification here. I love to talk the Dharma, and, I love to share with others. And it's so easy to fall into hierarchies, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, it's respectfully, it's classic first path. Like, it's only somebody utterly entangled with the fetter of personality belief that believes that they're a stream winner. But the very act of believing that they're a stream winner is the clear and definite proof that they're not. Because that's, one of the first three fetters you have to deal with on the first path. And so that tendency of, and it's clearly obviously very human, is like, we're in the Instagram generation. This is absolutely what Instagram is all about: the creation of a false persona, the creation of an outward-facing persona that we present to the world, and we fall into the trap of believing of ourselves. Yeah, and so all the people demanding badges, like they're in the Scouts or something, it's coming from uncertainty.
Yeah.
And the desire, again, going back to something I was talking about earlier, the desire for certainty. I need to know that I've got my place on this path. I need to know that that's certain and that's set, and I'm not going to, Whereas for somebody who is beyond stream winning, that never arises. That falls away completely. That uncertainty and doubt about themselves in regard to where they are on the path all completely falls away. And so the need to uphold a persona falls away completely. So yeah, so it's very, that one's great. It's so paradoxical. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, great stuff. Any more for any more? Or should we leave it there? I think I've just decided we're going to leave it there. Just decided. Lovely to see you all. I very much hope some of that was helpful for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that this will be a good one to put up on YouTube, especially for people new to this way of meditating. I think that'll be really useful. So thank you all very much for your contributions.
Thank you, Paul.
See you again, I presume, in 2 weeks. I'm not very good at looking at my diary.
3 weeks.
I imagine we'll be back again in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
See
Thank
you.
you, Hilda.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.